Hello, welcome to the channel. I'm Hasty D, and today we are going to talk about, is the Gerber 06 Auto still relevant today in 2026, nearly 20 years after its design and release? And this right here is not a Gerber 06 Auto. This is actually a Gerber 06 Assisted or Fast, and this was the first pocket knife I ever bought back in 2011. I just began the police academy, and we were told in our first week we needed to get a pocket knife and carry it with us for duty use. And I did not have one, so our academy was on a military base, so I went down to the PX, and this is what I ended up purchasing. I think I paid $50 back then. These are still available today. For 75, I think I just saw. But this is kind of the Walmart knife that everyone thinks about when they think about the Gerber 06, but is not a true 06 Auto. It wasn't until about 5 years later that I purchased my first real Gerber 06 Auto, and boy was I amazed at the difference. Definitely the professional version of the knife and what you expect from a USA made knife. Very impressed with it from the beginning, but it wasn't the knife that I carried that often. I actually went deep down the rabbit hole on pocket knives and carried everything from Spyderco's, Benchmade's, Microtech's, even carried Hinder's on duty, the XM24, which was a very large knife. And then I circled back around, came back to the 06 Auto, and I don't know what my gravitation is towards it, because it does have some issues that we'll talk about today. And this is kind of a long-term review of the knife. I've carried one primarily for the past 3 years every day for duty use and off-duty, EDC, as much as it makes me want to vomit saying EDC. But I've also, along the way, purchased a lot more and had some come into my possession through fate. This one here was actually found, and I brought it back to life. But this is by far one of the most used 06 Autos I've ever encountered. And it had a broken spring. And surprise, surprise, these all have had broken springs at some point in their lives. And that's what we're going to do today, is take this one apart, because guess what? The spring is broke. Now, I've seen people talk about, oh, the spring breaks, that makes it inoperable. No, you just have to open it like a regular manual pocket knife. Still works, still locks out. But that is kind of the issue you run into with these knives, especially autos, is they're running on springs, and springs wear out the more you use them. I am going to replace it with a aftermarket spring. I won't show that on video, but if you guys are looking for an upgraded option to these springs and these knives, you can get a hold of me, or I can point you in the right direction. I have a bunch laying around that I can ship out. But let's talk about kind of the long-term review of these knives. The versions I have here is the hard anodized aluminum scale version, the G10 version, which is slightly lighter, and I have a scale here. I'll show that to you. And then I did buy the 10th anniversary edition, which is this bottom knife here that you see, at least this part of it. I swapped out blades because I wanted a stonewash finish on a G10 scale version. I carried this for probably about a year before I fell in love with this one that I made. I love the finish on it. I actually removed the black finish that Gerber puts on these knives. It's kind of a matte finish. It shows a lot of wear, and I just really don't like it. So I took emery cloth, got rid of that finish, and I'm down to the bare steel on the one I carry every day that we're going to be working on. So let's get these out of the way. We'll get started. Along the way, we'll talk about the issues I've had with the knives, my likes, dislikes, and why I, spoiler alert, think it is still a good knife to purchase today, 20 years later. I don't know if they're going to come out with a 20th anniversary edition. This is the 10-year edition that you can find online still today. And as of this video, I found on cutleryshop.com one of these Gerber 06 Autos in this version with the black anodized scale for $139. And To be honest, that's hard to beat. Normally these are going for $210 plus. I purchased 2 of these for under 160 from that website. They're not obviously sponsoring this video because this is my first video ever on this page. But something to keep an eye out for. So let's get started in disassembly. If you've never taken apart an automatic knife before, I would not start with this one. It is kind of a pain in the butt because the spring just wants to shoot everywhere. I took one of these apart, this one to be exact, 2 years ago. Lost the barrel bushing in my garage along with a screw. Called Gerber's warranty service. They would not ship out any parts. They wanted me to ship the knife to them. I shipped it to them and I checked the box that it was not sentimental to me and did not care if they replaced parts on it. They shipped it back to me in this form. It was a brand new knife when I got it back. They just took one off the shelf and shipped it back to me. The knife I shipped them had G10 scales. This is obviously not the same version, but just something to keep in mind if you're sending your knife off for warranty work to Gerber. And you click those boxes that is not sentimental and you don't care if they change parts, you might get a completely different knife back. So, all right, we will start taking apart with the pocket clip, the most polarizing thing on this knife, I believe, that people complain about. And to be honest with you, it is not the greatest thing in the world. One, it's not deep carry pocket, which a lot of people complain about, but I've never understood the gravitation towards deep carry pocket clips. For me, if I'm trying to conceal a knife, I'm not going to clip it on my pocket. I'll just shove it in my pocket without the clip. Because if I see someone carrying around something in their pocket with a clip on it, I'm not thinking they're carrying around a ballpoint pen. I know it's probably a knife. So I don't understand that gravitation towards it has to be deep carry pocket. I do like larger knives, so I prefer 3.5 inches or more. This is, depending on what site you look at, anywhere from 3.7 to 3.8 inches long. And that's my preference. It is a heavy knife. Let's just weigh it before we start taking it apart. This one, in its form factor, weighs 7.34 ounces with the lanyard, and the G10 version 6.31. So the G10 version is much lighter if that's the way you're going. We are approaching a half-pound knife, so it is hefty, but that's kind of the reasons I do prefer a heavier knife. Not for any functional reason, just because I like the feel of a heavy knife. I don't mind carrying it around. I'm not wearing my girlfriend's Lululemons around town, so I don't care that it's a heavy knife. In jeans, you don't even notice it. And with that being said, that's part of the reason why I keep gravitating back towards this knife is the fidget factor. As dumb as that sounds, pocket knives seem to be the male version of a fidget spinner, at least an adult version. All right, let's get to taking it apart. T8 takes apart the small hardware on this knife. And like I said, the pocket clip does seem to be a polarizing feature of this knife. Most people tend to complain about it. There is one aftermarket version of it if you look online. But as far as issues with it, the only issue I run into is sometimes on really thick jeans, it hangs up when you try to get it in your pocket. That's why I put lanyards on most of these for ease of getting them back out. So that's why you see lanyards on most of my knives. This knife also hasn't been cleaned in over a year and probably has a few thousand open and closes on this spring. And this spring in here is an aftermarket spring. On all these knives, I've had all the stock springs fail fairly quickly. I'm talking within the first 6 months. But like I said, I do fidget with it every single day. They are something that I do open and close probably close to 200 times a day, as ridiculous as that sounds. But that's why I keep coming back to this knife, just for the fidgetness of it. Obviously, it is a good utility use knife. It's not as thick as like a Hinder XM24, but it's also not super thin. So if you're looking for something utility-wise, like a Spyderco PM2, that's going to be more slicey than this knife here. Something else to think about with the knife is if you are left-handed, which I am actually left-handed, but I carry in my right pocket. The reason why I do that is because on duty, my primary weapon's on my left side, and I like to have another force option on my right side. Not that I rely on a pocket knife for any type of self-defense. It's what's considered a weapon of opportunity here in the state I live in for law enforcement. But I do like having it on that side because I cannot get to anything in my left pocket when I'm working, just because my holster covers it up. And I've always carried that way, even out in public, off duty. So something to keep in mind, it is not a reversible pocket clip, but it's very easy to open these knives left or right-handed and close them. One of the selling features from Gerber is that it's one-hand opening, designed for military. They got the military contract for it, and they claimed to have issued over 300,000 of these to troops. How many have actually been sold, I have no idea, but it was designed by Jeff Freeman back in 2006. That's where the 06 comes from. And if you look online, especially on YouTube, for videos, there is a pretty decent Blade HQ video out there talking about the heritage behind the knife and some neat facts about it. Here we go. We're taking apart the pivot stop, the blade stop, and I've put Loctite on that, so that is not going to spin off there as easy as I want it to. We'll get into the main pivot, which is a T15, fairly big size, fairly large hardware on this knife. I always put a drop of Loctite on the pivot so it does not back out. Some of the features of the knife, it does have steel liners, which are skeletonized, but do still weigh a substantial amount, along with this steel backspacer where a lot of heft comes from. Another complaint I hear about the knife is fit and finish. These knives do have some issues as far as fit and finish. It's not going to be what you expect out of like a safe queen knife, but all the knives I've gotten in 06 autos have had zero issues other than that spring failing, which is to be expected if you're opening and closing your knife 1,000 times in a month. But yeah, we might have to take this off. There we go. Fairly clean, surprising for being in my pocket the past 6 months before being disassembled. Plunge lock, and then here's what failed on me: the pivot spring. And if you see there, it just cracks in half. Usually the main issue that I have with this knife is that spring failing. It's running on a bushing. Here's the bushing that I lost on the other knife. Has no bearings and no phosphor bronze washers, which is what you would expect to be in a knife like this. But the only thing it's running on is this pressed out piece on the liner, and that is what's keeping a lot of the debris out of that pivot. So the times I have taken it apart, yes, it is greasy and oily because I do put a drop of oil in there, but for the most part I've never had too much of an issue with debris getting in these knives. The only issue I've had is the blade is slightly loose if you want it to run smoothly, and just ever so slightly loose side to side. Forward and back, very, very strong lockup on that plunge lock. So if that's one of your concerns, I wouldn't worry too much about it. Other than that, I'm going to replace this. If you guys want to see a video on that, I can do it, but there are a couple out there already. and I'm going to continue to carry this knife. Zero issues with it. It does have S30V steel if you're a steel schnob. That seems to be slowly going by the wayside as far as one of the top tier blade steels. But I actually absolutely love this steel because I have zero issue touching up this edge with my work sharp, and I am not good at sharpening knives. So for me to be able to bring this back around is awesome, because I do use this knife quite a lot, and I do like to keep the blade very, very sharp. So I'm touching it up quite often, and it's very, very easy with that work sharp. Different types of blade configurations. You've got the spear, or excuse me, you've got the drop point, you've got the Tanto version, and then you can also get all of them serrated or non. And I have almost all the versions. If you have any questions about this, reach out to me. Like I said, not the perfect knife for everyone, but I do love the ergonomics and the feel of it, and I will continue to carry this well on past 2026. So thank you for joining me, and look for more long-term reviews for other gear on this channel.